Hello everyone and welcome to Who Wore It Better, the weekly segment in which I review Raw and Smackdown back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. We are back to our regularly scheduled time. We have a lot to discuss this week, one show in particular more than the other. But before we begin, I want to thank the fine folks at SeatGeek for sponsoring this week's edition of Who Wore It Better. SeatGeek is an app you can download on your iOS or your Android device. It aggregates a bunch of ticket vending websites from all over, so for concerts, for sporting events, for WWE, you name it, you can get your ticket deal through SeatGeek. The tickets you get through SeatGeek are both number-coded and color-coded to let you know what kind of deal you're getting on those tickets. If it's a higher up number or closer to green, it means you're getting a great deal. On the other side, if you get a lower number or closer to red, it's not so great a deal. And for a lot of the events, if you select a ticket, you can actually see the view you'll be getting from that ticket. You know exactly what you're getting through SeatGeek. And right now, if you want to download the app, go to the link at the top of the description to download the app on your phone. Go to the account tab, put in the promo code ZANE, and get $20 back on your first order. Raw begins with the Universal Champion Brock Lesnar making his first appearance since the day after WrestleMania. He's out there with Paul Heyman, who cuts another great promo, which does a great job building up both Joe and Lesnar going into their match at Great Balls of Fire. I love some of the stuff that Paul Heyman said in this promo. See, you know, if this were an old score being settled, I would understand why Joe put me in the coquina clutch. I get that, but this was not the case. And he goes on to call Samoa Joe the one Samoan that the rest of the wrestling Samoans don't want anything to do with. He calls him a mutt. He calls him a dog. Samoa Joe does finally come out, and an interesting verbiage by Booker T when he's coming out. He refers to Joe as the Ultimate Fighter. Might be a dig at Lesnar, who knows? Joe and Lesnar have a stare down in the middle of the ring. Joe strikes first with a headbutt, which seemed very reminiscent to me of that first in-ring moment with Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe in TNA when Angle headbutted Samoa Joe. So they have a big brawl. All the roster comes down to break it apart. Big pull-apart brawl. Samoa Joe gets a few more licks in on Lesnar, gets a big kick to the face on Lesnar while he's exposed. Great opening segment. Joe looks strong and brave as hell going against Lesnar. Lesnar can afford to take a lick like that every now and then. So this is probably the best opening salvo, the first physical confrontation between these two in the build of the pay-per-view. I love this segment. Elias Sampson's in the ring singing a song in a different key for a change. He's interrupted by Dean Ambrose. The two of them have a match, and there's interesting dueling chants in this match. People are chanting, "You can't wrestle, you can't sing." I imagine both of those are being directed at Sampson, but we all know that at least the singing part, that's the only one part that's true. Elias goes for a superplex at one point. Dean blocks it and throws him off the top rope, and the bump that Elias takes is pretty ugly. I was almost certain he was going to hurt his arm taking that fall. The Miz comes out and distracts Dean. He almost gets counted out. With the distraction there, Dean gets back in the ring, gets hit with a knee drop and a swinging neck breaker. Sampson wins the match. It's a good match. It's good, again, good look for Sampson. He doesn't need a clean victory because he's a heel. It's a good first few weeks for him since he's been wrestling now on Raw. It continues the feud with Ambrose and Miz, which we'll get to later in the show. And I think it was just a good match overall. Both guys played with the crowd really well. We then go to another great Goldust promo. It's followed up in the third hour by another rebuttal promo from R-Truth, which is in black and white for some reason. I love these promos. I had a very funny thought during the show. Would it be a great rib if these two never actually had their confrontation in the ring and they just cut promos forever? I mean, it would suck, but it'd be funny. Cruiserweight time as the man with the most boring music in the division, Cedric Alexander, makes his long-awaited return to Raw. He was out for several weeks, months I should say, with a leg injury, so it's good to see him back here. He's taken on Noam Dar, who in the preceding segment and then on his way to the ring was having FaceTime conversation on his phone with Alicia Fox. And so during his walk down to the ring and when he's in the ring getting ready for the match, Alicia, she's mic'd up and her vision on the phone is like blasted on the big screen. I don't know how that happened. Like, what's the logic in that? Did WWE just decide to hack Noam's phone and broadcast that onto the screen? Like, whose call was that to make in kayfabe logic? Like, where does that come from? That was really weird. So Noam's distracted. He gets hit with a lumbar check immediately. Cedric wins. I don't know what's going on. They play a big Roman Reigns hype package. Then at the end of the package, they say next week on Raw, Roman is going to be there to make a special SummerSlam announcement. I have a couple theories as to what it might be. I think the safe bet, in my opinion, is that Roman's going to say he's challenging the winner of the Joe Lesnar match at Great Balls of Fire for the Universal title at SummerSlam. And I guess his reasoning as to why he'd be number one contender would be, it's his yard. Can't argue that logic. My second theory for what could happen, and this is really kind of a stretch, but I mean, it could happen, Roman would make a challenge to John Cena for SummerSlam. Now, Cena's coming back to Smackdown on July 4th. He's a free agent, which means he can bop from brand to brand depending on what the plot sees fit. So I think it's doable. I think it's possible to have a cool inter-brand match with, Cena and Reigns happening at SummerSlam, a show that, could use big matches. And it's a match that a lot of people have been wanting to see. And I think this would be kind of a way to start that up with Roman making the challenge to John Cena next week. Cena comes back on July 4th and addresses the challenge. Who knows? Again, that's a real big stretch. Bray Wyatt comes out looking as if someone had just handed him divorce papers. He calls out Seth Rollins and, he says, if you take my name in vain, you will fall. And just as I'm starting to think, wait a minute, is this whole angle, this whole feud between him and Rollins over the fact that Rollins called him a couple of names, kind of haphazardly in the middle of a random conversation not having to do with Wyatt a week or two before? Is that why they're having this feud now? And just as I'm thinking that, Seth Rollins comes out and makes the exact same point. He says, you're jumping me and you're attacking me because I called you a name? The end of this segment was really weird for a couple of very unrelated reasons. First, Seth is laying out the challenge to Bray, go and fight me, don't be a coward. And then Bray says, you may be able to slay a king, Randy. And then as he's saying that, it's cut off by the Wyatt creepy stuff. And Orton's face is in it. Randy Orton's face is in it. They saved the old file from when Bray and Orton were a team and they played that one instead of just the plain Bray one. So he teleports out of the ring. They play it again. He teleports onto the Titantron, so he's there now. And then he goes, as I was saying, you may be able to slay a king, but I'm a god. And I'm why would they block it that way? Why would they script it where he interrupts himself, and then it goes to him on the screen, and then he resumes as if somebody else interrupted him? That was just a really bizarre thing. So yeah, the botch with the old clip of Orton's face on the horror footage, and then Bray interrupting himself and completing his own thought. That was really strange. Kalisto taking on Apollo Crews in the feud that will never die. The thing that made me laugh more than anything about this segment was the fact that, the storyline here is that Titus O'Neil is trying to recruit Akira Tozawa to the Titus brand. So he's he's whining and dining him. He's courting him. He's giving the VIP treatment, putting him in the front row of Raw. And so you see Akira Tozawa wearing a suit in the front row of Raw. Why? What's the point of that? He's there backstage all the time anyway because he's part of the Cruiserweight division. So you just have him in a suit and just have him at ringside standing next to Titus. Having him in the front row made no sense and made no difference. Kalisto goes for a springboard handstand elbow but gets caught in midair by Apollo Crews. Big spinning powerbomb. Apollo wins the match. Then afterward, he and Titus are celebrating in the ring. They bring Akira Tozawa over the barricade in the ring. Tozawa looks frightened and confused. The facial expressions for Tozawa were hilarious. And then one thing I thought was interesting is later in the show, you have Neville, who attacks Rich Swann before their match. He cuts a big promo, running down all the pretenders to his throne, and then he name drops Akira Tozawa, and because Titus O'Neil mentioned him on Twitter, saying he's the next Cruiserweight champion. So I was thinking, oh my God, is Neville going to lose the championship to Tozawa because Titus O'Neil gets involved? Ooh, that's a very weird feeling. Raw Women's Champion Alexa Bliss comes out and says the people were denied and robbed of the classic match she and Nia Jax were bound to have last week for the title, if not for the interference by Mickie James and Dana Brooke. Nia comes out and calls her bluff, and Alexa more demurs and kind of kisses Nia's ass some more. They are interrupted by Mickie and Dana. They talk for a bit. They confront Alexa Bliss. Then Emma comes back. Great. Hope to see her healthy for in 3 weeks. Sasha Banks comes out and tells Alexa being a champion means you bring it day in and day out, which is mighty rich considering she didn't make one successful title defense last year. She absolutely levels Alexa with a shot. It turns into a brawl, and then it's a 6-woman tag team match with Sasha, Mickie, and Dana taking on Nia, Alexa, and Emma. The match doesn't go very far before Alexa just pieces out and leaves the other two teammates of hers high and dry. Emma goes for a roll-up on Sasha, who counters it to a bank statement to win the match for the faces. Great return for Emma, I guess. She's been incognito for so long with injuries. She's back, and then she immediately taps out. So there you have it. Corey Graves interviews Bayley in a pre-taped segment, and let's just say Bayley didn't walk out of this thing looking any better than she did beforehand. I wouldn't say she looked a whole lot worse. Let's just say it was kind of a neutral thing. She talks about how, she's here to put smiles on people's faces. She's not here to leave people bloodied and bruised, and she doesn't want to be, she doesn't want to get ahead being someone that she's not, which just contradicts the whole thing. Why did you ask for the Extreme Rule? Why did you ask for the kendo stick and a pole match with Alexa Bliss if you were going to do that and go there? And Bayley just didn't really answer the question. She said, I just want to be Raw Women's Champion. And that's where it ends. It's just, it's easy at this point to criticize and make fun of everything the Bayley character is doing right now. And it seems harsh, but at the same time, it just flies in the face of common sense. So I don't know where Bayley's going to go from here. I'd like to see her finally kind of snap and get more intense and get extreme. I feel like it almost might be too late though. Who really knows? So earlier in the night, there was a segment backstage with The Miz talking to Rhino and Heath Slater. Great seeing them on TV again. Angle and The Miz are at odds now. Angle's told The Miz to deal with Dean Ambrose Ambrose yourself. So now there's this segment which just boggled my mind, because I felt like, is this intentional? Because it felt like they were just like making reference to all these other storylines that either just finished up or were still happening, where the Miz is like, I want you to join my entourage and help me, deal with the Kurt Angle problem. Very similar to Alexa Bliss trying to manipulate the other women about the Nia Jax problem. And the Miz is like, if you help me out, I'll give you an Intercontinental Championship match someday. Literally, that just happened with Neville and TJP. Like, is this intentional? Are they just copying and pasting dialogue from previous scripts? I don't know. Anyway, this leads to a tag team match with Rhino and Slater taking on The Miz and a partner, if he could find one. The Miz comes down without a partner at first, and this wacky clown music plays, and you see a bunch of bear faces on the screen. It's the dancing bear, the guy in the bear suit from last week's Intercontinental Championship celebration sketch. So he comes out on a big tricycle. The announcers go nuts with the bear puns, really trying to do this almost, a lot of them are the same puns that Daniel Bryan made on commentary years ago. Go look the video up on YouTube. It's hilarious. Say Daniel Bryan bears. It's awesome. So what these guys try to do in 2017, not quite the same amount of pizzazz. The Miz eventually jumps the guy in the bear suit, and you think it's Dean Ambrose, and he rips off the mask. It's not Ambrose, but then as he's going back to fight Slater and Rhino, wait, Ambrose is in the bear suit after all. It was like a switcheroo, twin magic sort of thing. And so then, so Miz turns around, sees Ambrose, and Miz runs away, but actually knocks Maurice off the apron. So she falls on her butt and walks off. She storms off, and there's this great shot that I actually took on my phone where the Miz is looking off, kind of sad that Maurice is gone, and behind him, Dean Ambrose is kind of looking like, this great shot. It was just one of those awesome shots where, no amount of context could explain what is happening in this shot. It was hilarious. So Miz turns around, Dean hits him with the dirty deeds. He drags Slater, who he already hit with dirty deeds earlier, on top of Miz. So Slater and Rhino win the match. It's their first win on TV in a long, long time, especially since the shakeup. So yeah, great stuff between Ambrose and Miz, continuing this feud. I didn't think that this feud had legs, especially after the shakeup when they just continued their feud from Smackdown. But surprisingly, all it takes is a bear suit, and voila, it's instantly been rejuvenated. Enzo and Cass take on Anderson and Gallows in tag team action. But before that happens, we go to the backstage area and see once again Cass is laid out. You see the Revival in the background while others are checking on him. In the background, sneaking away. It could be them, it could not be. And then you see Enzo, checking on him. Cass insists on wrestling the match. He doesn't last very long once the match actually starts. Enzo puts up a valiant 2-on-1 effort, but he's laid out with the Magic Killer. Anderson and Gallows win the match. Big Show comes out and makes a save before more damage can be done. He and Enzo have a hug in the ring. Cass wakes up just in time to see the hug. He looks pissed. And so then Enzo backstage afterward asks him, it's for peace of mind, I gotta know, man, was it you? And Big Show gets all mad. He's like, last 2 weeks I've saved your half-pint ass. And then he does a quick turnaround and says, oh, realize, it's your partner. He's being paranoid. He's being soft, as they say. So again, really interesting to see where they're going with this. I mean, again, the obvious choice is Revival or Cass, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a red herring. Maybe we don't know what's going on. Main event time. The Raw tag titles are on the line in a 2 out of 3 falls match as Cesaro and Sheamus defend against the Hardys. They spent the whole show hyping up and building this match up, so I was really excited for this match to begin. First fall, Sheamus kicks Jeff in the chest while he's bouncing off of the corner. There's a pinfall there. Second fall, soon after that, Matt hits Cesaro with the Twist of Fate, so now it's tied up 1-1. At one point, Jeff hits the Swanton on Sheamus. Cesaro pulls Sheamus out from under Jeff and out of the ring. Jeff and Sheamus are fighting on the outside to a double countout. So the match ends in a draw. There's no ring announcer to make that official. It's just the announcer saying at the very end. So yeah, for all the hype and the build they gave this match, it's kind of disappointing that they had a very inconclusive finish. Everything before that finish was fine, but just the finish left a bad taste in my mouth. I guess they're going to extend this on to Great Balls of Fire, maybe even to SummerSlam if they're feeling so bold and daring, but it just seems kind of, yeah, the ending fell flat to me. I thought it was a really weird, not great way to end Raw. Time now for SmackDown, and this is going to be interesting. I don't normally do this for Who Wore Better, but I don't have much to say about SmackDown from Tuesday because I was just bored. I thought it was a pretty uneventful, uninteresting show, which is unfortunate for the go-home show before Money in the Bank. I just think, that's kind of a blanket statement for SmackDown. I think that the show has lost a lot of its edge and a lot of what made it fun and exciting and different to Raw last year in the months following the draft. I just didn't care for this episode. I know, I mean, they can't all be winners, and then they try, God bless them, but this show just didn't do it for me. I'll talk briefly about the things I liked about SmackDown. Sure, the top of SmackDown, the New Day coming out with the big brass band because they were in New Orleans, so they had the big, Cajun feel. That was a really cool entrance to have that like remix to the New Day theme. That was awesome. Zack Ryder showing up backstage, interrupting Mojo Rawley's promo, his interview, saying he's back and that they have unfinished business in the tag team scene. That's great. I miss Zack Ryder. It was good to see him back. Lana jumped Naomi after her match with Tamina and hit her with her new finisher. It looks like a hammerlock into like a sit-out spine buster. It looked cool. It would have looked cooler if Lana didn't get caught up in her own gown trying to get up from the ground. I thought that was pretty funny. I thought the Jinder Mahal Orton segment was okay. Jinder cutting a great promo. Orton hitting him with the RKO from behind as the Singh brothers are distracted on the ramp. That was short and to the point. I thought it was pretty strong for both guys. Fashion Files was funny. I liked seeing the Easter egg of Sami Zayn on the suspect board in the background with the word generic underneath. Kind of a little Easter egg if you know your reference there. And speaking of Sami, I thought the finish to the six-man tag team match in the main event was exciting. It was like him and Styles and Shinsuke taking on Kevin Owens and Corbin and Ziggler. The whole match was like Sami getting all the heat. He's getting beat up, and then there's this moment where he's going for the hot tag and both Shinsuke and Styles are yanked off of the apron by the other heels. But then all of a sudden Sami hits Corbin with a haluva kick and pins him to beat him. So not only he keeps having Corbin's number, but like I've never seen, I can't remember the last time I saw like a tag team match in WWE, much less the main event, and without a hot tag, where like Sami takes all the heat, gets beat the whole time, then he winds up winning anyway without having to tag out. That was pretty surprising. But yeah, except for those few moments of brilliance, the show just felt like a whole lot of nothing, which is weird because I feel like I keep seeing this happen all the time lately with SmackDown go-home shows. It happens on Raw too. I feel like the go-home shows for a lot of the pay-per-views on both brands are especially kind of weak, but I feel like I've noticed it more with SmackDown, and that sucks. Time now for me to decide who won for the week, Raw or Raw. Raw won for the week, in case you couldn't tell from the vibes I was putting out in those last couple of minutes. It's disappointing because I feel the biggest problem I have with SmackDown right now is the way they've booked the men's ladder match for Money in the Bank, because they took 3 separate singles feuds and lumped them all together into this match, which in theory is fine, but I think it really hurt Shinsuke Nakamura's trajectory because he's a guy who really needs time to shine as a solo artist, if you will, for a long time before getting put in that situation. But he had one singles match on pay-per-view against Ziggler, then he's thrown immediately into this multi-man thing, and now he's just like everybody else. He's hanging out backstage with AJ Styles and Sami Zayn, who's still being a dweeb when he's strategizing over tag team matches. AJ and Dolph have been trading wins back and forth. They're at 50-50. Kevin Owens has been losing 3 weeks in a row to Shinsuke Nakamura, and it's just like no one looks good in any of this. No one looks strong in any of this, and that's one of your top feuds on your SmackDown brand, and it's not looking good for anybody. I don't know, no matter who wins on Sunday, that ladder match, I don't know how the other 5 are going to recover or what they're going to do. Are they just going to like trade places and feud with each other different people in that 5-some? Maybe another fatal 5-way. Ooh, who knows? It's just, it really bugs me. Whereas Raw has really been on fire the last few weeks lately, I feel, because of the way they've been developing their characters and having that nice blend of like action and intensity and some comedy and some mystery. We're getting like none of that on SmackDown. I feel like SmackDown it's almost like a clip show. It's almost like Superstars. It's just like there's no intrigue. There's no real meat or any heat to any of these storylines, and it makes it harder to watch. It makes it a boring show. That's my take on it. I think Raw has done really well the last couple of weeks. I know I didn't give them a point last week because it was Hulu versions, but this week they are getting a point in my book. So yes, Raw wins for the week. SmackDown not looking so hot as we go into Money in the Bank, and that's all she wrote. Before I sign off for the week, I do have a special message for all of you. It was 4 years ago yesterday that I posted my very first review for Wrestling with Regret. It was my Muhammad Hassan in WWE video, and since then, in those 4 years and a day, my life has changed dramatically because this channel has gotten so big, so much bigger than I ever could have anticipated. At this time, we have almost 180,000 subscribers. I got this bad boy around this time last year. I've been able to work with so many awesome people in wrestling. I've been able to meet so many awesome fans, both online and in person at conventions and wrestling shows and stuff. We've really developed an awesome, I keep using that word, but it's true, it's just awesome. It's awe-inspiring. It's humbling. This amazing community here in the comments section and on Twitter and on Facebook. It's been an absolute joy these last 4 years to run this channel and see it grow how it has grown. And through the good times and the bad, y'all have always been there for me, giving me words of encouragement and appreciation for the work I put in. And this is work. I mean, I love doing this channel and I love doing this job. This is my full-time job as of last August. It's still a lot of work, but it's my passion and I love doing this thing. And here's the thing. Some people say that working in YouTube is not a real job. I guess because it's entertainment and it's YouTube or whatever. Don't let people confuse your dream job with not a real job. Because, you know, for me, I'm still putting in the work. I'm working harder on this channel than I ever did in my 9-to-5s. I hope that the passion and the work that I put in this channel comes through here on these videos I do every week. And again, I thank you so much for all your support. It's been an amazing 4 years. Let's do some 4 more. Let's do more than 4, hopefully. Let's keep this thing going as long as it can. So with that said, let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below. Don't forget to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it. Subscribe to Wrestling with Regret. Buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.